Good morning. Morning, people. Morning, people who set their clocks. Yay. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to our guests online as well, and our guests that are watching later on YouTube. We appreciate you coming in this morning or tuning in, and just welcome. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose. We're here at the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. Right, show me your hands if you hadn't gotten enough sleep last night. Just a little show of hands, okay. All right, but let's not dwell on it, okay? Anyway, welcome to our Cathedral of Kindness, and I'm going to turn it over to Lonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Sure.
I'm not any more awake than you are.
Okay, good to know.
And I'm seeing all these people drinking coffee. I'm going to
Yeah.
go sit by them.
Yeah.
Boy, glad you made it. Maybe you don't know you're really here. Maybe you think you're still dreaming. But thank you for waking up and setting your clock, and I can't wait to go back to sleep.
Okay, good to know.
But we're going to have a lot of fun today, and I hope when we leave, we're awake, or we're awakened.
Good point. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. So let's see. Let's hear from Bill. He's our youth and family person.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Here we go. Much better. So as babies, or when we were born, we knew nothing of this world we entered. We didn't know what a spider looked like, that birds fly, water falls from the sky, or that the sun is warm. All we had was our intuition. Our first stage of communication to interpret what we feel, hear, smell, taste, and see. Our inner knowing told us if things were what we wanted. Sometimes we forget, but we still have that same inner wisdom working for us today. Ernest Holmes said, "Life is from within, outward, and never from without, inward. You are the center of the power in your own life." So I invite you all to close your eyes and take a breath. And visualize something you want. Think of how it looks, smells, sounds, tastes. Think of how it feels. Now, what if it was even better? How does it look? How does it feel? The power to create, it comes from you. Ernest Holmes also said, God's creative power of mind is right here. We have as much of the power to use as we believe in and embody. The storehouse of nature is filled with infinite good, awaiting the touch of our awakened thought to spring forth into manifestation into our lives. I invite you all to repeat after me. Wisdom flows from me.
Wisdom flows from me.
And so it is.
And so it is. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Here we are. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of And so it is. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, now we hear from Mary Kerrigan, our practitioner. She'll give us a prayer.
Okay, will the practitioners in reverence please stand in support of this prayer? Take a deep breath and settle into your seat. And feel that connection. Being here. The divine spirit flows everywhere through us and as us. That connection I feel for myself, and I know everyone here and throughout the cosmos is connected to that source, that divine flow. And today is full of fun and wisdom. We see things differently. We feel things differently, and we take that home with us and live it the rest of the week and the rest of our lives. We know that all that is here is what we need. And we rejoice in the flexibility of time and seasons. We spring into spring and have fun with the bringing forth back the blossoms and all the rejuvenation. We take that into our hearts. We appreciate everything in this service and let it sink into who we are so we live it even more fully. So I'm so grateful for this community, this spiritual message, and the spiritual lives that we have been given to live. I release my words into the law of manifestation, knowing that they are already so. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you. And so it is. And so we allow it to be as we breathe in and breathe out. And we settle into the awareness of this divine nature, this place that has brought us here together by sacred appointment. And we relax and let go. We open our hearts and our minds as we listen to the words of our sacred reading.
An excerpt from To Bless the Space Between Us by John O'Donohue. Despite all the darkness, human hope is based on the instinct that at the deepest level of reality, some intimate kindness holds sway. This is the heart of blessing. To believe in blessing is to believe that our being here, our very presence in the world, is itself the first gift, the primal blessing. Rilke says, to be here is immense. Nowhere does the silence of the infinite lean so intensely as around the form of a newly born infant. Once we arrive, we enter into the inheritance of everything that has preceded us. We become heirs to the world. To be born is to be chosen. To be created and come to birth is to be blessed. Some primal kindness chose us and brought us through the forest of dreaming until we could emerge into the clearance of individuality with a path of light opening before us through the world. The beginning often holds the clue to everything that follows. Given the nature of our beginning, it is no wonder that our hearts are imbued with longing for beauty, meaning, order, creativity, compassion, and love. We approach the world with this roster of longings and expect that in some way the world will respond and confirm our desire. Our longing knows it cannot force the fulfillment of its desire, yet it does instinctively expect that primal benevolence to respond to it. This is the threshold where blessings come alive. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Reverend Susan. And so we breathe and we allow ourselves to be. We continue to know the power and the presence of the living one within each of us. One of the names for the divine is I am. It goes by God, Spirit, love, higher power. So many names to describe something that is indescribable. And so as we breathe in and we breathe out, we feel that divine energy. We know it as ourselves. We become full, aware of the fullness of this divine energy within us. And as we know it for ourselves, we are moved to sing about it. And I am remembering who I am. And as we sing this song, we know the spiritual truth of the I am presence for ourselves, but also for every single person in this room. And we know it for all beings everywhere, every grain of sand, every particle of stardust. We know the I am presence is and as the entire cosmos. And so let us sing together, I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. With the love of pure spirit within each of us, we rest in this remembrance. And we remember this remembrance as we breathe in deeply. And then exhale, opening our eyes as love and in love and in service to what is as it is. And so it is. Namaste.
Good morning. My heart is already exploding. Thank you for the gift of your presence and for singing so fully and letting each of your uniqueness, that was exquisite. It truly was, and that was a gift, I know, to both Jason and I. So I am going to sing to you, Remember Who You Are. I love it when a plan comes together that we had no idea that we were doing that, right? Spirit is so good, right? Just all the little ways that we're reminded of who we are. And I was just thinking about that. Who am I? Who are you? We're just remembering how to be ourselves without the masks, without the fear and the worry and the doubt and all the things that when we walk out those doors, sometimes the world tempts us to get drawn back into the temporal part of who we are. But when we come here, remember the infinite part of our being, that we are breathing one breath. One breath. We have many faces, but we are the same. So I want to remind you, remember the unique you that you are. Come to the temple, bathe in the presence of love. Let go of the warring, lay down your sword. You've had enough. For I know you're weary, the battle is taking its toll. Illusion is shattering, the veil is rent. You're whole. So come to the fire and lay down the shame of the past. The blaze purifying, revealing your gold at last. You hold the keys now, unlocking your shackles and chains. No longer a prisoner, you are now free and reclaimed. You're surrender to my love and trust that you're enough. Allow yourself to breathe and remember, remember, remember who you are. So come to the mystery and give up the stories you've known. The path now collapsing, leading us home back to one. No longer divided, the fractals united in peace. Oh, it's time to play now like children of love's destiny. Destiny. Surrender to my love and trust that you're enough. Allow yourself to breathe and remember, remember, remember who you are, who you are. You are the light So remember, 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 oh, remember, remember. You sing that with me, oh, remember, 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 oh, remember, 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 oh, remember, 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 oh, you are the light, so remember, remember, remember who you are, who you are, who you are, so remember.
Okay, the message today is about optimism. What could go right? I got the idea for this talk from one of our practitioners who was saying that she was lying in bed at night saying, what could go wrong, what could go wrong, what could go wrong, what could go wrong, and thinking of every possible thing that could go wrong. And then she said to herself, you know what? I'm a religious science practitioner. I'm going to change that Mamma Mia up. And so she started saying, what could go right? And now she walks on water. No, I don't know about that, but anyway. You know, optimism, it's all around us, but we tend to overlook it, don't we? We tend to overlook the good that's around us all the time. Yesterday, when I was getting ready for my message today, I was walking about the house, kind of doing what I do, walking into various corners and staring into space and wondering if the idea will be in this corner versus that corner. My husband, who's doing fine, by the way, some of you know he had knee surgery, and that's why he's not here, but he's doing fine. He's, in fact, doing great. Anyway, walking around the house, wondering what I was going to say, and my husband said, so how's that talk coming along? And I said, oh, I don't know. Not very well. What's it about? Optimism? Yeah. So we're talking about optimism because I need it, okay? I don't know if all of you need it, but let's just assume that we're all one and we all need to learn a little bit more about optimism, okay? So before I get into the thing about optimism, I want to talk about what skillful optimism is, okay? I have a picture of one of my former dogs up there because I was thinking about skillful optimism yesterday, again, when I was out on the beach walking my dog, and we were on an off-leash section, and we were approached by a little white dog. My dogs are bigots. They do not like little white dogs. And I thought, well, couldn't I just be optimistic about this? Everything will be fine. And then a voice of reason said, no, err on the side of caution. Be optimistic about something else. Be optimistic about your ability to corral the dog and manage her on a leash. And I say that to all of us because sometimes what happens in metaphysical teachings is that people say, okay, I have to think positively, I have to think optimistically, I have to only see the good, and then we lose all common sense, right? That's why I have the picture of the dollar bill up there. Just so you know, that is a scheme. If you get a dollar bill with a dog head on it, that's a get-rich-quick scheme, okay? How many of us have been tempted by schemes involving money? How much of us has been tempted to be optimistic about somebody who is not treating us well? That's not what I'm talking about, okay? I'm talking about skillful optimism, which is something different. From the reading, Spiritual Optimism, our hearts are imbued with longing for beauty, meaning, order, creativity, compassion, and love. We approach the world with this roster of longing and expect that in some way the world will respond and confirm our desire. That is hope. That is optimism. Knowing that we are spiritual beings here, knowing that, as Emma Curtis Hopkins said, there is a good for us and we get to have it simply because we're born. In this handout that you can get later on if you want, it has some tips for optimism, but also at the bottom, it defines optimism. Remember, optimism is not about ignoring reality or difficulties. It's about choosing to believe in our ability to overcome challenges and expecting good things to happen. Expecting good things to happen by virtue of our divine nature, our sacred nature, our mystical nature that is always within us, no matter what we do or no matter what we've done. The thing about pessimism is that it is part of optimism. That's why I have the yin-yang symbol up there, right? It exists for contrast, and really optimism and pessimism are perhaps opposites, but around the opposites there is a circle that embraces everything, and that's where we identify. We identify with the circle that contains both the darkness and the light. And pessimism, when we look at it that way, it is trying to help us. Pessimism can promote survival. Kind of like what I was telling about the dog story before, where I wanted that little white dog to survive. And, we make decisions, our separate self, our ego, our discerning self, which is not a bad thing, it just is, makes decisions that will facilitate our survival. We drive on the correct side of the road. We don't throw money away at things that have no meaning. We don't allow people to treat us badly, as I just said. And the separate self, the ego, the survivor, is a good thing, but we don't have to completely identify with that. There is something else going on, too. There is a mystical self that sees a bigger picture. So pessimism is trying to help by promoting survival, and sometimes it gets a little overzealous about it, right? The other thing, I heard this from a spiritual teacher that used to work here. He used to teach classes in the basement, and I cannot remember his name, but he said, pessimism is protecting us from our next disappointment. Pulls at my heartstrings. And that goes along very much with this idea that it eases our fear of looking foolish, that we're afraid to look foolish. We're afraid to try something new. We're afraid to step out because we might fail and then we'll look foolish. I pondered this idea of looking foolish, and I thought of a spiritual character who was not afraid to look foolish, and that is Nellie Forbush in South Pacific. Mary Martin. Nellie Forbush said, "When the sky is a bright canary yellow, I forget every cloud I've ever seen, 'cause I'm only a cockeyed optimist, immature and incurably green." Everybody, no, okay, we don't have to sing it. How many of us want to be called immature and incurably green? Kermit. Thank you. I don't like to be thought of immature. Well, never mind. I take that back. You look in the dictionary and you see immature, and there's a picture of me there. Okay, so, but anyway, immature and incurably green, unsophisticated, a mere rube on the face of the earth, right? We don't want to look that way, and so we protect ourselves with this practice of pessimism. And it is a practice, isn't it? We work really hard at pessimism, and we don't even know we're doing it. How about that? Where attention goes, energy flows. Probably a lot of us have heard that saying before. Where attention goes, energy flows. So we often will place our attention on what is wrong with the world versus what is right with the world, kind of like our practitioner friend who was saying over and over again, what could go wrong, what could go wrong, what could go wrong, right? There's this thing that I learned about called doom scrolling. Has anybody heard that term, right? So you're scrolling through your social media or a news feed or whatever, and we're looking for what's wrong. We're looking for bad things. We're looking for things that will get us worked up. It's hard to resist, isn't it? It's really hard to resist. But the thing is though we might be doing it physically on social media or what have you, we're also doing it in our heads. We're constantly looking for what could go wrong. We are doom scrolling internally as well. And then there's evidence. We seek evidence that something could go wrong. And we see what we believe. When we see what we believe, the seeing of it, the experience of it, gives us more reason to believe, right? So we get in this cycle where seeing and believing come one, and not in a positive way. The truth about pessimism is that worrying, or pessimism, is like paying a debt you don't owe. I have spent most of my life worrying about things that have never happened. Brother Mark Twain, wow. True words. The alternative is optimism and all of its benefits. So many benefits. I AI'd optimism. I don't know if that's a verb, but I AI'd optimism using service-based AI, which pulls from the wisdom traditions, right? ai.servicebase.org. Try it out. It's super fun. Optimism leads to greater health. Fewer strokes, fewer heart attacks. Fewer stress-related disease, because optimism reduces the level of cortisol in our blood. Optimism can lead to greater and more powerful relationships, because we're not constantly picking at the person and seeing what's wrong with them. Optimism leads to greater esteem, because we're not picking at ourselves and seeing what's wrong with us. And optimism leads to greater success, not only in that we have goals and we can have optimistic goals for ourselves and for the world, but also optimism leads to resiliency. So if we do fail for a moment, if we do fall down for a moment, we can pick ourselves up with this resiliency and try again. Optimism shares so many benefits with us. I've also noticed in my own life that when I am optimistic, some of my friendly addictions decline. I don't know if there's data on this, but I would assume that it's true, because there is so much to live for, and we don't have to quite so much medicate against the intrusions of the world. And through optimism, we move from surviving to thriving. There is so much good for us, and we get to have it. There is so much love for us, and we get to experience it. Oh, hi, Sue. Woohoo! Sorry. Now, what was that song?
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
See? I'm telling you, cell phones are a voice from God. It never fails. It never fails. In church especially. You get what you need, people. Okay, I'm done with my talk. That's all you need to know, okay? Thank you, Susan. So we move from surviving to thriving. Optimism also gives us great joy and great humor, if you hadn't noticed, okay? The other thing about optimism, though, which is really, I think, primarily what we're about here in this spiritual center, is that we constantly reorient ourselves to align with divine truth. We reorient ourselves to align with divine truth, the truth of our being, the truth of the I am presence within us and all beings, the truth that our beautiful singer Heather sang about today, the truth of being I am, being enough, being worthy, being present, being gloriously endowed with all that is. We love because love first loved us. This is a paraphrase of 1 John chapter 4, verse 19. We love because love first loved us. I wrote this down because I've been listening to Taizé chants. Taizé chants are spiritual chants, ecumenical chants, and one of the lines is Christ, meaning Christ in this tradition. We say that Christ is another name for everything, or Christ is the consciousness of love. Christ has always loved us. He loved us before we loved him. We were born because of God's optimism. Love is optimistic about you. I am is optimistic about you. Your higher power is optimistic about you. For God so loved the world, for love so loved the world, that he or she or it or whatever, they, them, created us as a reality show. As entertainment to experience itself through us. Love so loved the world that love created us to express love and to find love and to share it. Love is optimistic about you. By some inner mystic presence, I was told to live and to love, to laugh and be glad. That's Ernest Holmes. Does that sound different than the messages that we might tell ourselves? Many of us grew up with religious traditions that had a very different message. By some inner mystic presence, I was told I was a sinner. Let's change that. Love is optimistic about you. God is optimistic about you. By some inner mystic presence, you were told to live and to love, to laugh and be glad. What would life be like if we really believed that? Optimism is a form of prayer, right? It's also a spiritual practice. Really, the two become one. Prayer and practice become one. Contemplation and action become one through optimism. It is making the word flesh. It is making spirit matter so that matter can become spirit. A way to practice is to notice our inner doom scrolling. We can notice our outer doom scrolling too, but we can also notice our inner doom scrolling. Remember how I just said how outer doom scrolling on social media is so compelling, it's hard to look away sometimes? Same thing with inside. It's hard to look away from our inner doom scrolling. So we notice it, and we don't have to beat it into submission, we just notice it. It's trying to help us. Instead of asking, what can go wrong? We say to ourselves, you know what? I'm going to put this inner doom scrolling over here for a while, and I'm going to ask myself, what could go right? And just think up one thing, just one thing, and then maybe another, and then maybe another. You can pick up the doom scrolling again if you want to. You can pick it up again if you feel like some of it is realistic, but just play with the idea of what could go right. And then remember that our belief creates experience. As we start to ask what could go right, we can actually look for what is going right in our lives right here and right now. Right here and right now in this spiritual center, there are a lot of things that's going right. Now, of course, I want to tell you the one thing that's going wrong. Well, maybe there's more than one, but the soundboard is kind of broken today, so there's a little buzz. But aside from that, look at how many things are going right. Y'all are here. We've got great music. We got all of you. We got cookies afterwards. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Yeah, okay. So much is going right. Belief creates experience, and then our experience of experiencing what is going right creates the belief of, oh my goodness, things are going right. Things are righter than I thought. I like being here, even though it is daylight savings time. And then the voice of doubt. It may rear up in you if you start practicing optimism. It may grow a pair of ovaries, muscles, whatever, and come up and tell you that you are wrong for being optimistic. We remember together that fear is not the whole picture. You know, before I said that, yes, the ego is an important part of life, and fear can be an important part of life. Fear can prevent us from doing things that are destructive to self or others, but it's not the whole picture. It helps us to a certain extent, but we don't have to identify with the fear of who we are. We identify with that which encircles the darkness and the light. We identify with the wholeness of being from a place of equanimity and poise where we can look at what is happening and have some discernment about what's going on. We rarely see the whole truth. Byron Katie, many of you know who she is. She will often ask us to look at our thoughts and ask, is it true? And I listened to something the other day that said 90% of our truths are not true in the way that we want them to be true. They may be true for us in that moment, right? I have to do it again. It's the elbow touching thing, right? We touch our elbows. Are you touching your body? Yes, you are. It's true. But are you touching your whole body? No. So we're rarely seeing the whole truth, but we're acting like we're seeing the whole truth internally. And then there's race consciousness. Race consciousness means the human race, and there seems to be a negative bias. I don't know if it's always been that way. Maybe the 24-hour news cycle and social media, et cetera, are bringing it more to our attention. But there does seem to be a negative bias. Stuff like this. This actually was a headline in the Weekly World News, which is a kind of a supermarket paper that makes up a bunch of stuff. You find Bigfoot in there, Bat Boy, aliens, alien abductions. I couldn't find the actual paper itself, but I do have a hard copy of it. But anyway, I'll let you make up the headline. You know, I used to think that the Weekly World News was really bizarre, but sometimes when I look at the regular news, I'm like, you're doing the Weekly World News right here and right now. It's crazy. And one of the things we can do to overcome the barrage of negative news that is coming to us, is it just me? Do other people find the news very negative? Right? Okay, good. I didn't, because I've got my biases too. About a year ago, I met somebody named Linda Ulrich. I met her on an online gathering, and she's a TED talker, and her talk is called The Conspiracy of Goodness. And I believe she runs an organization, too, that is dedicated to ferreting out good news. And I was complaining about the news cycle, and she said, oh, you're so wrong. There's so much good news out there. There's so much good news out there. We just don't see it. And so this is from her TED talk. There is an organization called Skateistan that was started in Kabul, Afghanistan, in 2007, and they recognized that there were many, many children, many people under the age of 25 that were being neglected, that they weren't getting a lot of attention or resources. So this gentleman from Australia found what he loved, and he brought it into Kabul, and then he started teaching children how to skateboard. And this became viral, and now it's in over 100 countries. This is from a website called www.positive news. In this website, they talk about how in Arizona, they are forgiving medical debt for low-income families. They've either passed it or they're about to pass legislation that will allow that to happen. They partner with a nonprofit, and this nonprofit has provided medical debt relief for, how many people? How much? The number's impressive. I want to get it right. 8.5 billion in medical debt relief, right? Did you hear about that on the news? No, but you heard it here, didn't you? Okay then, all right then. AI. Now, there's a lot of fear about AI, but it's like anything else. It's like electricity. It's like dynamite. It can be used for good things, or it can be used to promote well-being and health and goodness. AI has recently discovered, through AI, they have recently discovered a new way to treat cancer, a new way to treat a specific kind of cancer. And so by gathering a lot of information from different sources electronically, this provides hope for many, many, many cancer patients. This one, there is an Earth Prize for teenagers. This, again, is a global thing, and over 10,000 youth participate globally in Earth Prize. They are finding solutions for environmental problems. One of the participants is in Egypt. They are learning how to accelerate food waste composting. Others are fighting drought solutions in Mesopotamia. In the southern United States, somebody is monitoring honeybees because our food supply is dependent upon the honeybee. So all of this good news is happening all around us. And that last one is opera. Opera returns to a city that was bombed in Ukraine. How do you feel right now? Just take a note of how you feel right now. You don't have to bellow it out. Just how do you feel right now? There may be a little feeling of vulnerability. There may be a little feeling of hopefulness. You may be afraid to trust it. But what if we were to shift our focus onto this good news, onto this plethora of good news that is often overlooked? And we start to see that. We start to be with it, and we start to participate it in a new way. It could certainly change our lives, and it could change the world as well. So what's your good news? Sorry. Okay. There's a picture of you up there. I'm sorry. We ask ourselves if there's something that we're dreaming of, something that we're longing for, something that we wish would change in our lives, whether it's something global or something personal. We ask ourselves, What could go right? We use our imaginations. And even better, we can ask ourselves, what is going right now? Right here in this room, there are a lot of things that are going right. Right there in your lives, there are a lot of things that are going right. And then we make that word flesh. We make that spirit of goodness and rightness flesh as we practice small acts of kindness. Because if we give away that goodness that we wish to receive in our own lives in the spirit of love and non-attachment, that goodness flows back to us. The giving becomes receiving, and the receiving becomes giving as soon as we give it. If we practice this, we can turn from those grumpy faces to this. This is from John O'Donohue. We're featuring his book, which is up here, John O'Donohue, The Space Between Us. Despite all the darkness, human hope is based on the instinct that at the deepest level of reality, some intimate kindness holds sway. The universe is kind. The universe is meant to be kind. And yes, we may see lots of evidence to the contrary. But let's focus on the spiritual truth. One more story. This stuff really works. You guys recognize who that is? Harry Belafonte. Okay, I'm not going to sing, okay? See? I was going to do the same thing. She went, Deo. Okay. Harry Belafonte. Now, Harry Belafonte was minding his own business, and he happened upon some pictures that showed famine in Africa. This was in the mid-'80s. And he realized that in Europe there had been a number of musicians that got together to raise money for the famine in Africa to help the people there. And he said, you know what? We need to have some black people help black people. And so Harry Belafonte contacted a whole bunch of people, probably starting with Quincy Jones and Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, thank you, and said, we're going to get together. We're going to get together and do this thing. Now, just wait a minute before we get to the end. What if Harry Belafonte had been pessimistic about that? What if he said, oh yeah, it's a huge problem. There's nothing I can do. Oh, I'm going to contact all these artists. Oh man, a bunch of divas stuck in a studio for hours recording a song that's not even written yet. There are so many pessimistic things he could have said about that. But no, he didn't. He went ahead. And, oh man, I'm talking about a movie. I saw this movie, right? It's called The Greatest Night in Pop, right? If you can tolerate the 80s fashion, go and watch it. What were we thinking in the 80s? Don't get me started. Anyway, Harry Belafonte, in case some people don't know what I'm talking about, Harry Belafonte assembled, through a series of wild connections, assembled all of these artists, and they created We Are the World. We are the children. We are the ones who, in a better way, so let's start giving. There you go. There you go. So many great stories about all of the nuances and all of the goodness that was happening in that. And the thing is that it worked because people had optimism and people had faith. They ended up making a ton of money for Africa. And because of Stevie Wonder, 10% of that money went to help homeless folks in the United States. Ah, beautiful. There is a lot to be grateful for. There is a lot of good in the world. And so let us affirm together today. Here we go. Today, we reveal the spiritual magnificence of life. We co-create a world that works for all. We choose optimism, joy, health, and wholeness. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, then. All right. Let us pray. And so we turn within to trust this divine power that we have sung about, that we have spoken about, that we have experienced in fellowship and community. We absolutely trust that there is one perfect life, perfect meaning inclusive of everything, and this life is the life of God. This life is a life of love. And so we anchor with that life. We know that it is our own, and we know that it belongs to everyone. We recognize that that life is who we are. And we allow that life to guide us in our own individual experiences here on the planet Earth. Today, we open our minds to greater possibilities. We open our mind to optimism. We open our minds to the being of the divine that seeks expression through all of us, that loved us before we loved it, that has such optimism in us. And we return the favor by having optimism in the greater power, in the greater love of the divine. And so from this place, our lives unfold with grace, with kindness, with service, with joy, with peace, with happiness, with abundance, with thanksgiving. And we hold this vision for our world as well. As we know this for ourselves, we know it for everyone, because there truly is only one being here, and that being is love. And so I give thanks for this. I give thanks for this teaching. I give thanks for this center, for this truth. I give thanks for transformation, and I bless all paths to God. Churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams, fundamentalists, atheists, agnostics, I bless everyone. And with a heart that is so filled with blessedness, I say thank you, Spirit. Thank you, love. And I release these words into the divine mystery. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
I feel very awake now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. I'm so glad I got up that hour early.
Thank you.
Because Miss Carol's cookies wouldn't have made it.
That's right.
You know, there was a
Yeah.
little pressure there, but so many great nuggets of beauty, of learning to live life in a different way, which is why we come together here. Some of my favorites, like intimate kindness. Oh my gosh. Like when that pessimistic part of you is like going full circle, full intimate kindness, and then we can remember. Yeah. So this morning as we prepare our offering, I just invite you to like sit with something that maybe doesn't feel completely right. You're here, it's a safe space, and think of like, how is it going right? How could it be right? How can I be with this? And so I just invite you to place your offering over your heart and repeat after me. I don't see the little thing.
We trust in spirit.
We trust in spirit. Love is a gift. See, how could it go
of
right?
All that we are. We offer this gift.
It is an outer expression of our inner abundance and compassion. Our gifts bless many and return to us multiplied in miraculous ways, so that we may give again. And so it is.
Thank you. Okay.
Of describing the same thing that is love, and you did that so beautifully. Thank you. I feel fed, full.
You guys sing really good, so we're going to invite you
Yeah.
to sing with us. We're talking about chants. A little earlier, Bonnie was talking about this is a chant. This is Sanskrit, and it's we're going to say this phrase, Aham Prema. Can you say that with me? Aham Prema. You know what you just said? I am divine love. Aham Prema translates to I am divine love, and that's what you are. That's what we know you are. We're in the temple of love. So we're going to invite you to sing with us.
So the verse part of it says, in the presence of love, everything changes. In the presence of peace, I quiet my soul. In the presence of grace, life rearranges, and the light inside is guiding me home. Okay? You ready? Yeah. In the presence of love, everything changes. In the presence of peace, I quiet my soul. In the presence of grace, life rearranges, and the light inside is guiding me home. Now we'll do it together, okay? Oh, in the presence of love, everything changes. In the presence of peace, I quiet my soul.
In the presence of grace, life rearranges, and the light inside is guiding me home. You guys got it. Let's do that again, okay? In the presence of love, everything changes. In the presence of peace, I quiet my soul. In the presence of grace, life rearranges, and the light inside is guiding me home. Aham prema, 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 aham pray. You guys are amazing. Let's do it again. In the presence of love. In the presence of love, everything changes. In the presence of peace, I quiet my soul. In the presence of grace, life rearranges, and the light inside is guiding home. Aham prema, 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 aham prema.
Let it radiate to the cosmos.
Aham prema, aham pray. Now we're just going to keep singing Ma, and I want you to sing freestyle, sing your heart out to the world. And so it is.